In 1991, Susan Lucci had been nominated for a Daytime Emmy 11 times in a row. She ultimately was nominated 21 times, winning only once, but that's not the point I'm getting at. Susan Lucci played Erica Kane on a soap opera called All My Children, which was one of two soap operas my mother watched for my entire childhood. I knew very, very well who Erica Kane was, but in 1991, I learned three things. First, I learned that Erica Kane was played by an actress named Susan Lucci. Second, that she was always nominated for an award and never won, which was a running joke that the adults on the TV were aware of. And third, that John Tesh was a man who talked to entertainers and about entertainers on a show called Entertainment Tonight that was only about celebrities. I remember at 10 years old seeing this show interview Susan Lucci and joke about her struggles with winning an Emmy, and immediately I was a bigger fan of Erica Kane. I was invested in the character because now I cared about the actress. That has never stopped. Despite not watching soaps or caring particularly about daytime TV, there's still a part of my mind that lights up and is ready to support anything when the name Susan Lucci is said aloud. I'm a fan, because Entertainment Tonight gave me a reason to be one. That was the first time I was affected by celebrity marketing and promotional appearances, but is certainly not the last. I love entertainment, and I spend my downtime taking in a lot of media. And I'm super interested in the method and effectiveness of promotional appearances. I love late night talk shows. I'm into celebrity interview shows. I'm into celebrity reality shows. All of these are simply another marketing arm of a celebrity's branding strategy. These are all vehicles for a celebrity to endear themselves to the public in hopes that they will gain their interest and support throughout their career so they can continue to work. There's a lot of cool ways to do that. But I think there's one particular promotional appearance that does the job better than any other. And it works for any celebrity, even if they hate promotional appearances. So let's talk about that. But first, disclaimer time! This is not a review show! I am nerd incorrect. I'm passionate, opinionated, highly subjective, and so many times incorrect. I have to repeat, this is not a review show. I'm not going to objectively weigh any piece of art on any merits. What I will do is explore the things that make entertainment beautiful and explore the art created for us to consume while we live our lives. Thank you for joining me while I explore the adventures we have from inside the house.
I'm uncool, I'm the Urkel to everyone's Bill Murray. I've been broke in every sense of the word. And I keep chasing my next high score. Issues galore, I'm a walking, talking magazine we all know that nobody reads. What's the use in words when they don't even understand me?
Welcome to The Adventures We Have from Inside the House, a podcast about entertainment, how and why we consume it, and how it shapes our lives. And more importantly, a podcast that celebrates the things you like, even if nobody else does. My name is Tim Riel, and I am Nerd Incorrect, the boy who loves entertainment of every kind and always seems to fall in love with the properties and art that don't always follow the crowd. Celebrity culture fascinates me. There's an entire industry built up around the manufacturing, sculpting, distribution, and consumption of celebrity. Everything is endorsed by celebrity, created by celebrity, or caters to celebrity. If someone who is not a celebrity creates something of value and others see the value, that person is no longer a regular person. They become a celebrity. Long gone are the days of actors, musicians, athletes, and politicians being the only names known in a regular person's household. We know industry CEOs, their relationship woes, their vacation spots. We know government health officials and what they had for lunch today. We know the sham wow guy. And just like any other commodity in the history of humanity, celebrity has fueled its own mega industry, allowing ordinary people to buy a house, a car, raise a family in the suburbs with 1.8 kids, and do it all with careers with names like copy editor, social media consultant, brand manager, publicist, blogger, paparazzi. It's easy to forget that every day of Kevin Hart's life spent entertaining you, of being a celebrity, those actions and the planning, execution, and dissemination of them directly or indirectly enables 100 people to support themselves and their families. This thought occurs to me from time to time, and it makes me feel slightly less bad that my favorite thing in the world is entertainment, because my love for it, all of our loves for it, puts food on the table for a lot of regular folks. I like celebrity. I think ultimately it's good. Because the bigger that industry gets, the more people that need to be involved, the more people that need to be fed by the monster of celebrity, the more people are going to get picked to do things celebrities do. There's going to be more actors, there's going to be more musicians, there's going to be more athletes, because you need to fuel the machine to make sure the regular people can eat dinner with their family in a nice house. It helps to fuel an industry and fill it with more and more people instead of just the people who needed to be a celebrity. No longer are books written only by people with the foolhardy dream to be a writer. No more are films made by actors and production crews with an unquenchable thirst to create art and tell stories. There are a million passionate people who must create art because their souls yearn to express themselves and shout magic into the universe. Those people cannot help but create. The muse is too strong and they simply must perform their craft for the masses. And most of them are awful at what they do. Despite their need and passion, they're simply not talented. Some of them are incredible geniuses, mind you. Some have both the irrepressible drive and the incredible talent. But even more of them are not geniuses and only have the passion part. But there are many artists, performers, creators who aren't fanatical or even all that committed. They didn't get here by way of passion or determination. They just fell into it because they had an aptitude for it. They were just good at it, and after careful consideration, they figured it was better than manual labor or any other job. There's a common trope in entertainment when we're talking about coming-of-age tales or the hero's journey, and it's this. The person best suited to the task is the person who does not want it. In these cases, of course, it predisposes that this person will not be able to ignore the call of duty. Those that are accidentally brilliant, those that seem unconcerned about celebrity, the ones who don't seem to care, the ones that just do the work. They're the ones we collectively decide to care the most about, the ones that simply treat it as a job. They're our favorites. And I bet they drive their publicists nuts. The business for them is the craft they perform. They are actors or musicians or athletes, and they just want to act, make music, or play the game. The circus around everything, the secondary industry built around their primary job, requires an extra level of effort. It's not enough to be a performer and do the job well. You also need to be famous. An analogy I like, and that I'm likely going to butcher, is that the celebrity business is a lot like the car business. Ford made cars. So did many companies. And at some point, people could choose who to buy cars from. And it stopped mattering so much how good the car was. So people started buying the cars they heard were good and ignored the ones they hadn't heard of. So companies had to start doing things to make sure the populace would hear about the car they wanted to sell. Ford went as far as to build cars solely to win international F1 races so that everyone would know the name of the car and know it was the best. So a separate business was built up, not to build cars that got people from point A to point B quickly and safely, but to build a famous car. The famous car was what would allow the company to sell the other regular cars that the regular business made. Then, businesses popped up to provide fuel and oil and tires and engines and other car parts and experts in installing and maintaining said parts, not for regular cars, but for the famous car. And then other businesses were created to make knockoff accessories of the famous car for use in the regular cars, and soon there were companies and businesses and people who were making a living based solely off the famous car. But here's where it gets tricky, because now there are a lot of mouths to feed here. In the early 90s, there was the threat of some states mandating a certain percentage of cars be zero emission, and so the companies started making electric cars. The problem was that the electric cars were good, interesting, and quite possibly the way forward, but they didn't need fuel, they didn't need oil, their engines didn't have complicated mechanisms that needed parts and expert technicians, and the people who provided those things still had mouths to feed. So they weren't a big fan of the electric car, and they promoted the regular cars and the famous car and tried to have people forget about this new car that would take food off of their tables. This is the same tightrope walked by celebrities who don't care about fame. They may just want to get the job done, but there's an entire industry built around fame that requires their participation to feed families. The company that hired them to perform probably owns the network with the show that talks about famous people. They're connected with the news media that has 24 hours of news to fill, and they have toys to sell, t-shirts to hawk, and algorithms to satisfy. So, if you want to keep working, keep getting the jobs, you need to play the promotion of fame game. And there are so many ways to play that game. The people whose goal was always to be famous are going to gravitate to the Instagram and TikTok marketing stuff, the beefs narrative, the highly public relationships and relationship disasters. They're going to go on Dancing with the Stars. They're going to sing songs in a car with James Corden. They're going to eat weird food on Fallon. And they're going to be really good at it. And they're going to keep getting hired. And the ones that aren't chasing fame are going to need to find a way to be good at it. And just like any other commodity, this promotion of fame business has grown. And because it has grown, there are passionate people who live for the promotion of fame. They have a passion for it. And there are others that just do the work. And it's to those people I gravitate. It's those that help build and create the type of fame that we actually crave. It's those people that allow a celebrity who is unconcerned about being a celebrity to still grow fame without the pageantry of the passionate. Baked into every entertainment contract is the promotional appearances agreements. It states that for a certain amount of time, the performer will make themselves available to appear and promote the product. They'll do press junkets where they'll sit in a room for several hours as entertainment journalists are shuffled through to ask them similar questions. They'll appear on late night talk shows and be pleasant and fun. They'll do morning talk shows and learn how to make a souffle. There are two things happening here. The first is that they're doing what was asked of them in the contract. Make people aware of the product they were part of, and make sure everyone knows about it. The second, and for me the most important, is they are promoting the best version of themselves. This product they are promoting will be done and gone soon. They need to make sure that the public remembers them and wants to see more of them. For late night, as an example, there are two ways to get invited onto the show. The first is to have the people you worked for request that you go on the show to promote the product. They will pay the show to invite you on. The second way onto the show is to be so fun and entertaining that the producers of the show will keep in contact with your agents and inquire about whether or not you are promoting anything else so they can have you back on the show. Paul Rudd held a masterclass on this idea, making sure that every appearance he had on late night was fun, memorable, and entertaining. His Conan appearances alone made it so that people kept asking to see more of Paul Rudd. And so Paul Rudd kept getting hired for jobs because Paul Rudd delivered viewers to both the jobs he took and the late night shows. But as time has gone on, new people have entered the promotional appearance space, and the celebrity commodity is being expanded to more than just 8 minutes on the Letterman couch. Podcasts have allowed for long-form interviews that had been previously reserved for celebrities famous enough to appear on Larry King or in the actor's studio. And much like that format of show, the podcast hosts soon gained the same level of fame as their guests. Marc Maron, far from a common name heard around the entertainment world, even in comedy circles, was able to make himself into an important celebrity by creating a product fueled by celebrity, and in turn was able to provide a promotional vehicle for other celebrities that sold the idea of authenticity and the chance at a personal insight into who that celebrity is as a person. Of course, these aren't necessarily an enticing alternative to a celebrity who doesn't want to divulge an hour or more's worth of personal details and opinions to the general public. Which is why I admire the competition celebrity show. The type of show where celebrities play a game or do trivia or try to bake a cake or in some way do an activity. The American style of this show I find lacking, much of them being more of an opportunity to laugh at the celebrity without giving the audience much insight into the person. Dancing with the Stars can be a great choice if you are capable of dancing, otherwise it's an opportunity to look silly. Which isn't necessarily enticing to a celebrity that isn't up for that kind of attention. Again, there are those that are really into the attention, and there are others that are just trying to stay relevant so they can get the next job. Because despite their talent, it's relevance that is important. Celebrity Big Brother recently wrapped, and it was clear from day one that at least 4 cast members were there simply because their publicity team told them to be there, with one celebrity leaving partway through filming because it just wasn't interesting or fun for them, while others were there 100% because they love being a celebrity and they love the limelight. But the favorites, the ones the fans loved, they were the 3 that already loved Big Brother and didn't care about being a celebrity. They just really wanted to play that game. And for me, that's the kind of promotional appearance I think works best. When promotion and celebrity exist, but aren't the celebrity's focus or concern. When the celebrity is there to have a good time. For my money, I think the Brits have it figured out. It starts with the very old British television concept of celebrity panel shows. The Brits figured out very early on that although talk shows and interview shows served as good vehicles for promoting a product, you could get more fun from your guests if you took them off the hot seat and asked them to just hang out and have fun. Instead of an 8-minute interview with forced prompts for prepared stories, you bring on celebrity guests to just talk about stuff or play a game. Many of these panel shows are presented as a game show, but are ultimately just an excuse to watch celebrities hang out with each other. Which isn't to say that there hadn't been attempts by talk shows to do something similar. Some American talk shows would ask guests to stay on the couch for the subsequent guests. British talk shows, like the Jonathan Ross Show, and more famously, and just simply better, the Graham Norton Show, have all the guests already seated and present for the whole show, able to chime in and react to the other guests' anecdotes. It's like watching 4 people hang out with each other and have a good time. These still had the forced prompt issue, of course, but they still allowed for some very interesting and surprisingly honest moments. But there is one show that pulls off the trick of giving celebrities the opportunity to be entertaining while at the same time letting them be themselves. Or more to the point, making it impossible to not be genuinely themselves. Taskmaster has a different take on what a celebrity show should be. Or more to the point, Taskmaster focuses on being a good show more than it focuses on spotlighting celebrities. It's a game show and it's a comedy show, but it's subversive and is much closer to performance art than it is an episode of Celebrity Big Brother. The very first thing a new viewer of the show will realize is just how cinematic the whole show is. The care, quality, and art behind the camera work, lighting, design, editing, every part of the production looks like a masterclass in shot composition, pacing, and visual storytelling. It's a production made up of talented professionals with an obsession for filmmaking. This isn't a regular workaday TV crew. This is a team of people who probably shouldn't be making TV, but instead working with the likes of Denis Villeneuve and Wes Anderson on cinematic masterpieces lauded for their art direction and vision. I'm not kidding when I say, on paper, this production level is too elevated for the concept. The skill and beauty of the technical work paired with the idiotic, silly, and inane content of the show seems ill-paired. But it works. It really, really works. The concept of Taskmaster is the main host, the impossibly likable, sarcastic man-giant Greg Davies in the case of the original British version, invites 5 of his fellow comedians onto a show where he will set them specific and ridiculous tasks. Tasks can be as simple as building a paper airplane and seeing how far it'll fly, as difficult as solving elaborate puzzle-filled scavenger hunts, or as ridiculous as trying to figure out if you've been poked by someone's finger or a sausage. Then, each guest will be graded against the other guests based solely on Greg's subjective opinion of how they succeeded or how they failed to succeed. You may be imagining a fun hour of television watching funny people do funny things, but this is where the genius of Taskmaster lies. It isn't an hour of fun. These guests have been invited for an entire season of Taskmaster, and all of their points are cumulative. They will be here for 10 episodes. Imagine you are a celebrity who doesn't like the celebrity part. You hate talking about yourself. You hate promoting your brand. And most of all, you hate the idea of showcasing the celebrity version of you. Now imagine you've been invited to feature on a show that is wildly popular, widely enjoyed, and the most important thing about the production is that they care more about the show than they do promoting you. In fact, the show doesn't ask you to do any of the heavy lifting in terms of being entertaining. They just want you to be yourself and do some tasks. Like I said before, this is the epitome of a promotional appearance. You get to market yourself by just being yourself while also not having to tell anybody anything personal about your life or who you're dating, and yet still get incredible amounts of screen time and have people enjoy you and relate that feeling to the next time they're asked to take in one of your projects. The whole concept of the show is that Greg and his sidekick, Little Alex Horn, bring the funny and the banter, and the production team set the tasks and produce the segments to make them fun. It's the easiest appearance a celebrity can have in terms of having to promote themselves. Of course, the show requires them to do tasks, but again, that's the fun part. This is the work that these celebrities actually enjoy doing. They like the performance part. It also puts everyone on equal footing. Sure, everyone sits together on the couch at Graham Norton's, but is it really equal when British comedian Josh Whitcomb is on the couch with half of the Marvel Avengers cast? Is Josh really getting screen time? Or is the audience annoyed and hope he shuts the hell up so the Avengers can start talking again? On Taskmaster, everyone is set up to succeed. They're set up to shine, and with every new segment, every guest becomes more beloved by the audience. The show makes it easy for you to discover someone you may never have seen before and make them your new favorite person. Comedians you know and love sitting next to new sitcom actors you've never heard of, and you don't care who's being featured because the show is what's important. And by the end of 10 episodes, you are clamoring to discover all the work done by your 5 new favorite celebrities. If the point of these promotional appearances, the press junkets, the talk shows, the Dancing with the Stars, if the point is to keep a celebrity relevant, keep them in the public eye, keep you thinking about them and waiting for their next gig so you can pay to see it. If the goal is to take a celebrity you may or may not have heard of and turn them into a celebrity you root for and support, if that's the point, then there is no better vehicle than this. Forget Fallon, forget Celebrity Big Brother, forget Access Hollywood. Go straight to Taskmaster. It is hands down the perfect promotional appearance. Our theme music is provided by Double Experience. You can find the track Bill Murray everywhere you get music. And my ability to take time out of my week to make this podcast is supplied by my supporters at patreon.com/nerdincorrect. If you support us on Patreon, thank you. And because you do, you're listening to this episode a week before anybody else. And if you want to be part of that club, head on over to patreon.com/nerdincorrect, where you get early access to all our podcasts, an exclusive podcast, and so much more. You can also join our Nerd Incorrect Discord server, The Incorrection, where we can discuss in more depth everything I talked about today. If you want your question and or comment about today's podcast featured in next week's episode of discussing the adventures we have from inside the house, you can drop it into our podcast-specific Discord channel or comment on the Patreon post of this episode. All of the comments on the Patreon will be featured, and if possible, as many of the Discord comments as well. I'm Tim Riel. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week as we discuss more of the adventures we have from inside the house.
I'm uncool, I'm the uncle that everyone's built me, and that's alright with me, 'cause I'm a walking, talking magazine. We all know that nobody reads, but what's the use in words when nobody understands me? What's the point of trying to be someone that I can't be?